right, man. Episode 1.
Episode 1, man.
It's crazy.
Hey, finally.
Finally. Welcome to my real estate mistakes, where we made all the mistakes for you, I guess.
Still making them.
Yeah, definitely. So, I guess we're your hosts. I'm Chauncey Hilliard.
I'm Dequincey Edwards.
And I guess the first episode, we're going to talk about our background, kind of give you an idea of where we started from, how we originally started as real estate agents, and then kind of became investors into real estate as the years went on.
And I also got like a funny story of why I even became a real estate agent. It's a really funny story.
Well, go ahead and start with the story.
Okay, well, my dad, he owns he's a general contractor. So what a general contractor is, basically he's the boss of the whole construction. He builds it from the beginning to the end. He's the boss. So in high school, I used to work for him as a laborer. So anybody know if you're a laborer on a construction site, basically that you pick up trash.
You probably was a labor assistant.
I know, I was a laborer. I was at the bottom.
Yeah, at the very bottom.
I was at the bottom. So we picked up trash, sweeped up, moved materials around, just basically just labor moving around, things like that. And I remember it was one of them 100-degree Orangeburg summers in the summer. And I was just tired, ready to go. And then I see this lady come in her black Mercedes and pull up to the house. And she had people with her and all that. So I asked my Dad, what she do? She's clean. She had a nice bag, nice shoes, nice outfit. Showing people, she like, that's the realtor. I say, what's a realtor? He say, well, that's the person who helps people buy and sell homes. So basically, we'll market that property and she'll have his clients and buyers buying homes. So I was like, well, okay, but how much she get paid? He said, well, we paid them up to 6% on the price sale. So I did quick math, like, well, $100,000, that's $6,000. I'm 18 years old, 17 years old. I say, I sell one house a year, I'm done.
That's rich.
I'm rich, So that night, I went home and looked up how to become a real estate agent because my goal was to get out that sun and get in some AC. That was my whole goal. And that's when I realized I had to be 18. And that was my first trip to get into real estate. I wanted to just get out the sun so I don't have to be a laborer no more.
Yeah. And my story is very similar to it. Exactly. That's all I was. I was a laborer, but I said I was a labor assistant because I was the one that get lunch. I was the one that pick up trash, clean up the houses at the end, and I was like, "There's no way possible."
My brother Step, he older than me. He picked up lunch and stuff. Church's chicken, 20 piece. It was 3 sides.
Gatorade.
Exactly.
Go pick up material. So I was like, it'd be darned if I do that because the previous summers before, I just put myself in that afternoon. I put myself in a summer camp or something, so I won't have to be on the construction site. So I actually went to real estate school before I was 18 years old. So I was in real estate school actually at 17. So I had to wait until I turned 18 to actually get my license. And that's honestly how I got into it. Was I was determined not to work on a construction site for that summer. And that's kind of how I got started. So I was a computer engineer major because I thought that engineers make the most money in 4 years. So me going to real estate school that summer, trying to change my major and kind of my career path when I got into real estate. So that's kind of how we got started. And then initially we got started, real estate was booming. Like you just only needed a post to actually get a loan at the time, like 550 credit score.
But before you even say that, you remember we was 17, 18 years old in real estate school. Where actually, like, real estate school was hard to find a real estate school back in those days.
It was, yeah.
It's like 1 or 2 maybe.
Yeah.
In there, and I had to work for the money to go to real estate school. Like my parents just didn't give me everything was like it was like $150 back then.
Yeah, it was something cheap.
Yeah, it was something like that. $150 to take for the 2-week course and pass it and get the real estate license. So I remember that. Yeah, that was a while. So when people ask me a lot, we look young, like how the real estate test, I always tell them I haven't taken that test since 2006.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you what's on that test.
It definitely has changed a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely more laws when I first came in.
So it's a completely different test. But that's kind of how we got started. It's kind of where that was, and kind of using that as a gauge. And by us having that background, I think it kind of made us a little bit more, gave us a fast start. But when the market crashed in 2008, it kind of came to a halt because it was kind of all around us. The things that we did the first 2 years, I remember. I think my first year I made 30-something thousand at 18.
Whew.
So I thought I was like,
no, you bills. You was
no bills. Parents still paying for everything. Yeah, you couldn't tell me anything.
Couldn't drink then.
Couldn't drink. But couldn't drink legally. But no, definitely, I think that's kind of where it started from. So 2008, the market crashed, and it kind of changed everything. So at that time, anyone could get a house. At 2008, it kind of bring everything to a halt. So we actually had to decide if you're going to go to do another profession, or you're going to actually specialize in something. So I think that's kind of where our real estate mistakes had kind of started off from.
So when you said that, so kind of explain to the people. See, 2006 was basically before the economic downturn. Mm-hmm. That's when it was subprime lending, a lot of loans programs, a lot of people was buying houses, a lot of banks was lending money to build homes for contractors. Mm-hmm. So it was a wild, wild west back then. Mm-hmm. Like basically, that's the only time that my dad actually had a waiting list. Mm-hmm. That's how hot real estate was. We had 40 or 50 people waiting list for new homes in Orangeburg. Mm-hmm. Then suddenly 2007 came. It fell off a cliff, and in 2008 it went to the bottom of the ocean.
That's exactly a good analogy of it.
So basically, from 2000, I believe how many years? Maybe about 2 or 3 years.
No, I would say 2008 to 2012.
About 3 or 4 years.
About 4 years, that it was kind of like you didn't know where it was going because it continuously went down throughout that whole those 4 years. And it didn't gradually go down. It's like one day you woke up that you probably had 10 clients or you had 10 homes that you were going to build, to the banks are crashing and everything is kind of crashing around you, and you just came to a complete stop. So instead of kind of just sitting there and crying about it, you had to figure out what was your next direction. And I think that's when.
And that was kind of our first real estate mistake because, like you said, you made $30,000.
Yep.
And I made that much also around that amount, about $20,000-$30,000 myself while I was in college. Mm-hmm. Thinking that money's going to continue.
Exactly.
So that's the first.
I thought about quitting college.
Yeah. I mean,
there's no need to go to college. I
had a heart-to-heart with my professor. Let her know, hey, this closing is happening at 3:00. It's way more important than this exam I got to take at 2.
Agree.
But so basically, that's kind of our first mistake. So we kind of came up on a bad timing.
Agreed. And my parents think it's a really good timing for it because it was made us learn that it's not going to always be uphill.
Exactly.
It's definitely going to go down. And we was able to experience it at that time. Luckily, we were young enough that we didn't have a lot of responsibilities. But just imagine, I think if I can look at my numbers correctly, I made 30-something thousand in 2006. In 2008, I had made 5,000.
That's a lot of pressure when you got. If you had a family support.
Yeah, so family support is completely different. But I think that's when you realize that the mistakes you made before, because I could run up a credit card bill like it's no other.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's when they was giving you real limits.
Yeah,
back
give
then.
you real
balance.
limits. Yeah.
They gave me $20,000 because I had a couple of some money. Woo.
Mm-hmm. So that's what we're kind of using as a base of how real estate mistakes kind of started, is that when the market did start turning up, then we transitioned a little bit differently, that we know that we needed to do something other than sell real estate and get the percentage off of there, which you still can do that, but we really figure out need to find other avenues on how we can actually gain more money or gain more wealth or in that sense. Yeah. So that's kind of how we got started initially with our beginning, our humble beginnings at the beginning of it. So going from there to our first kind of real estate purchase, because honestly, at 18, I didn't think about buying a house at the time, which is a good thing. Definitely I didn't buy a house because it crashed. So the housing values went down. So the same house, I think I had put a contract on a house, and it was off of Broad River Road, and it's a patio home, and it's $120,000. I put $500 down, earnest money. Was supposed to close on it and didn't make it to closing. So they took my earnest money, which was the best $500 I ever spent, because that same house that was $120,000, when the market crashed, it became $50,000. So the good thing about it is I didn't purchase it in '08, and interest rates was at what, 7-8%?
Yeah.
So yeah, they were really high at that point. So that kind of changed everything on that standpoint there. So we went from there to finally kind of finding your niche market of where you want to go. And
well, I didn't find a niche market. The niche market found me. So basically, how that happened was we had a meeting between sales teams. And we had a new subdivision called Green Acres. I'll never forget it, back in Cordova. I mean, it was perfect homes for the hot market. It was 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, under the 140 range. We built 10 of them at one time, and we was going to sell them real fast. Mm-hmm. Then the market crashed. So we had a meeting, and we had to figure out, who's lending, mm-hmm. who's still buying homes, who's still trying to give out mortgages, okay? The loan officers, we know someone went out of business. Mm-hmm. The banks just froze up. So we had to still sell them homes. So we had to figure it out. So that's how I kind of found the niche of federal loans, federal housing loans, like USDA mm-hmm. direct loan program, and all these types of first-time home buyers the county had, like the first-time home buyers, Lexington County, Richland County, Orangeburg mm-hmm. County, had to figure that out because they were still lending. Mm-hmm. And their process was totally different from a bank process.
Exactly.
But it was very tedious, and it was a lot of paperwork and things like that. And I used to get a lot of frustrated with it by selling homes with it. But then my dad told me, it's a rule book. They're just following the rules. That's why you keep running into these problems with these loans. Just figure out the rules. And that day on, I figured out, okay, why are you telling me no? That's the biggest thing I tell people. Mm-hmm. Just don't take a no for an answer. Why are you telling me no? It's a reason why. You're not making decisions. In real estate, you're not making any decisions for me. The loan officer, the underwriters, they're not making the loan decision. They're saying no. It's a rule book. It's guidelines they're following. They're saying they cannot give you this loan, or reasons why you got denied that loan. And I just figure out the why. Like, why this happening. But if I did just start, okay, well, we do this and did this, can that work? And basically, that's how we find a niche. Like, mm-hmm. I just had to learn how to make a client into a client.
Agree.
Especially, and I was 18, like 20 years old. Nobody's going to take me seriously coming in there saying, let me help you buy a home, let me help you sell your home. But people that, wanted to wish was on a prayer, had faith in me. Like, hey.
Mm-hmm. And you provide value because even though you were really young, you still was able to, because you you knew the rule book, you can actually provide value to people. And I think that's what the difference between most people are, is that we'll find a solution to what the problem is versus actually getting stuck on the problem. So we this is the new normal. So what can we do to still provide great service to people? It's kind of what we use. Like I would say my thing when Quincy went that direction, which was actually perfect because I call him my specialist. Like if I have a USDA question,
I think I'm losing that title now.
No, yeah, you definitely lost it. Yeah. Over the years, it definitely has changed to different titles. But what I would say is that I went into the foreclosure market because no one was able to buy houses and everyone was losing the houses. So I became the foreclosure specialist. So I went to this. I was 20 years old when I went to Vegas my first time. And I went for a conference.
I remember that.
And my parents paid for it because I ain't had no money. Again, real estate market crashed, and all that money I made in '06 was gone.
A lot of memories.
So I went to a conference in Vegas. I was 20 years old, and the conference really showed us, like, they gave us the blueprint on how can we actually work for the banks. So they gave us a list of banks that we actually could sign up to actually work for them for, and that's kind of how I actually got started back into doing real estate, was that you wasn't doing buying and selling at that point. You were actually doing like the back work for the banks to put the houses back on the market after someone goes in foreclosure. So I used that and I went into senior living because one thing about it is that your parents are going to still get old, or your grandparents were getting old at the time. And I don't care if the market was up or down, they still had to make that transition into that type of housing. So that is where I kind of find my target market with those people. That target market kind of found me as well. And that's kind of how we leverage ourselves to go into the next level of investing in our personal houses, starting off there. So that's kind of how we use as a gauge. And we'll talk more about it in the next segment.
Okay. But also, into this, I just want to say that real estate is always throwing you curveballs. Okay.
Always changing.
In baseball, that's one of the hardest pitches to hit is a curveball. So real estate is going to continue to throw you curveballs. The reason for this podcast is we just want to have a community of people that, hey, if you feel like if you're going through a real estate problem, we want to speak on that problem. We want to make sure that there's a solution around that problem. You're not the first person who issued that problem. You're not the first person to run through that problem. And we want to have a community of people that we can just talk to and try to figure this thing out. Because real estate is not 1 + 1 = 2. It might be 1 + 1 - 3, add 2, can 5, but you all get to the same end goal is basically if you want to buy, sell, or make money in real estate. So that's what I just want to put out there, that we're 15 years into real estate, still making mistakes, still learning to this day. And we just want to make sure that we just want to give our knowledge that we have,
our mistakes,
our experiences to the public, so they can share. So next time people, call me or DM me and things like that, I'm going to tell them to go to the podcast.
Perfect.